Welcome back to the Average Albertan Podcast, and it is playoff time. That time of year that we're all looking forward to, where we get down to the nitty-gritty. And yes, the panel is back. We have Frank, we have Eric, we have Ryan to make our playoff predictions, discuss the season, and to look back at our early season predictions. We'll see how that went a little bit too. Hello out there, we're on the air. It's hockey night tonight. Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the puck goes down the ice. The goalie jumps, and the players bump, and the fans, even the Leaf ones, they go insane. Someone roars, Bobby scores at the good old hockey game. We'll be back to this 30-second countdown. All right, here we are back. Welcome again to the Average Albertan Podcast, the playoff edition. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's bring in the panel. We've got Eric, the big-time Leaf fan. Welcome back to Ryan, Oiler through and through. And from the East Coast, that other side of Canada, we have Frank back as well, and I'm sure with a little bit of colorful commentary as we go through today's episode. So welcome, guys. Welcome back to the show. Look forward to this episode. Probably my favorite episode of the year because we do have playoff talk. We have playoff hockey. I know you guys are pumped up. Well, most of you are pumped up because your teams are in the playoffs. Whether you're rooting for your favorite team or any Canadian team, it's time to get started. Well, Frank, first start with you. How you doing? What have you been doing over the last month, getting ready for the playoffs?
Yeah, well, watching the Habs lose, but we have been watching the Laval Rockets as a substitute for the Habs, and tonight they punched their tickets to the playoffs in the AHL. So very good news on that end. So at least our kids are going to get some playoff experience and try to win the Calder trophy. So that's the shining, the good news of the night. So that's what we've been doing.
All right. And Ryan, welcome back. I know you've been busy with work and with the newborn and lots on the go. Looking forward to some playoff hockey?
Oh my goodness, am I ever, especially this year. It's going to be exciting times. Exciting times to be an Oilers fan. Best second half record in the league. Better than Boston in the second half of the season. I mean, it's a great time to be an Oilers fan.
And speaking of good Canadian hockey teams right now, the Maple Leafs on a little bit of a high right now going into the playoffs, second seed in their division. Eric, how's it going with you? What's been up in the last month since our last episode?
It's going very well. I'm glad the season's over. Thank God for the Oilers because that was entertaining. The Leafs weren't entertaining. They've been in second place for a while. Boston's locked down that division very early. There was a little bit of a fight with Tampa for who gets home ice. We knew that we'd be playing Tampa, and then Tampa fell apart a bit at the end and ended up being kind of a 500 hockey team over the last little bit, which is not very good. And so it was kind of boring. So let's get on with it, kind of thing. I've seen a lot of memes with, I'm ready for disappointment, and with usually people wearing Leaf jerseys. So perhaps maybe that's where maybe I don't want to move on. But yeah, so yes, looking forward to it. Very excited. I'm glad that they figured out put the Oilers on one night, put the Leafs on another night. That part's good for me, for sure, and probably most Canadian fans. And you know what? I know we'll get there, but there's 3 teams, and I think 3 teams have a shot to move on, which is really nice this year. So there you go.
Yes, we can't forget about the other Canadian team in the playoffs, the Winnipeg Jets as well, that just kind of squeaked in there in the last week. And again, if you are a Calgary Flame fan, if you're a Winnipeg Jet fan, Ottawa Senators, Vancouver Canucks, get a hold of me, send me an email, go to the email link in the About section of this YouTube channel, And if you're interested in joining our podcast from another perspective, from another team, we'd love to have you. So, feel free to do that. All right, let's get into the meat of the show here, starting off with our preseason predictions. Our preseason predictions, overall, not too bad. Not too bad. There were a few kind of glaring mistakes. I'll quickly go through mine. As the host, I want you guys to have most of the airtime. But in the Pacific, I got Calgary definitely wrong. I had them finishing second. I did have Vegas. I did have Edmonton. Central, St. Louis, big disappointing year. And then Nashville just missed out. So I missed a couple in the Central. Metropolitan, Carolina Rangers, Pittsburgh Capitals did not make it. And then in the Atlantic, we had Florida, Toronto, Tampa, and Boston. So I nailed the Atlantic just in the wrong order. Otherwise, probably hitting about 600, which for a baseball player, as Eric knows, is a multi-million-dollar contract if you hit 600.
Excuse me, I know you wanted to gloss over it, but that 600 average, it gets destroyed by New Jersey being last on your little chart there that you wanted everybody to ignore.
Oh, Frank, don't. We'll keep that in mind for your picks here, Frank. We'll revisit that. All right. Speaking of Eric and his Maple Leafs, Eric, a little bit about your preseason predictions. What did you get right? What did you get wrong? Talk a little bit about how you saw things at the beginning of the year.
Well, I certainly. So we'll start at the top. I didn't see Seattle doing what they did. That was very good. I see 3 out of the 4 I got right in the Pacific, not in the right order. Vegas came through and is full of marks for that, really, because the Oilers really pushed at the end and Vegas hung in. So I give them a lot of credit. LA, I picked 3rd. I got that one right. Obviously the Ducks had a terrible year, so they're on the bottom. Vancouver, I think, fell into that area around there. I think I'm pretty accurate. I haven't looked at Vancouver's stuff for a while. So there you go. Avalanche, I said they'd finish first. Boom, baby. That's what they did tonight. Sorry, St. Louis, Minnesota is there. Yeah, okay, that's good. I didn't have a lot of faith in the Jets and certainly didn't have a lot of faith in Dallas being there. Did predict the last 2 accurately in the Central, so that is good. Unlike Glenn, who had his New Jersey way at the bottom, I made them 7th, which is really something because New Jersey really is a pleasant surprise. I don't have any, I just didn't think they were ready yet. Obviously they were. We know about all the firings that's been talked about today quite a bit. Brian Burke on the road. Columbus, they are absolutely at the bottom, fighting for something. Disappointing about, I didn't have the Capitals. I thought they were a bubble team, and I put them on the other side of the bubble. Islanders, good for them. They made it, and Flyers. And finally, my Leafs did not get there because Boston was, out of nowhere for me. I didn't even have them in the top 4. Had Ottawa instead. So Boston, hey, hats off to Boston. I mean, when you set records, that's amazing, and that's consistent. And they were consistent throughout. So good on Boston. Florida made it. I'm glad. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. We'll talk about that later. And poor old Montreal. I don't want to see this again. In Canada, Montreal had been playoffs. So the Leafs, are you kidding? We're used to the Leafs not being in there. But Montreal is like royalty for a guy my age because, that's what they are. And so, yeah, it's not good when that happens in Canada. I think Montreal, like I said, they're the New York Yankees. And I don't want to see them this place, but I did pick them there, and unfortunately, that's where they ended up. So not bad. I don't know if I'm 600. I don't do math. I'm going to say I was 1,000. But yeah, I'm really, the other one. Wow, that's something. Expansion team, second year. Was in it for forever, really, and just kind of failed the last little bit. And certainly New Jersey is a fun team. A little bit early, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, so there you go.
All right. Well, you got 10 out of the 16 playoff teams. And I think when it comes down to it, it's just, who picked the most playoff teams correctly here. If I go back to mine, I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So pretty close.
You're winning.
11 to 10. And notice that, we both had Montreal finishing last in their division. So I think we should get a bonus point for that.
Oh, good.
All right. Ryan, you're up next. And just for the viewers, we are recording this show minutes after the Avs Predators game. So we didn't know the result of that game. So you'll notice on my final standings graphic at the bottom, I do have Dallas and Colorado, inversed or the wrong way. Colorado did win the Central Division. Dallas did finish second. But like I said, we're recording this minutes after that game was final. And it was close right until the very end. All right, Ryan, you are up, and go a little bit through your preseason predictions compared to the results.
Yeah, 50% on the Pacific. I thought Vancouver would squeeze in there with the Boudreau effect. Obviously, he had quite a unceremonious departure from Vancouver, and they got a lot of things to figure out before they get in there. And then I had Calgary making it. Figured that they would be a lot better, but they got a dinosaur for a head coach that doesn't want to coach new things with new players and new systems and this and that. And another Canadian team that has to have a deep look within their organization. Seems like Edmonton shipped all their bad water over to Calgary and Vancouver. Edmonton ran out of runway to get to first place, in my opinion. Another couple games left in the season, or if they got on that hot streak a couple games sooner, probably would have edged out Vegas. Can't say for sure. But yeah, in the Central, I think I was the only one that had Winnipeg getting in there. I don't know. I don't want to toot my horn too much. Missed out on Dallas. I thought Dallas was going to be. Oh no, I'm missed out here.
Yeah, you missed out on Dallas.
Blues. Missed out on the Blues. I figured the Blues would have a better season than what they did. But yeah, Avalanche in first place like they're supposed to be. Wild played the way the Wild should. Just a decent team all around. Made some confusing trades at the deadline, but it worked out for them. And Winnipeg having a roller coaster every year. Top 5 team in the league for the first half of the year, and bottom 5 team in the last half of the year, and then squeaked in the last couple of games of the season. But happy to have them in the playoffs. Yeah, I had New Jersey down there. I don't know why everybody New Jersey was going to be as bad as what they were, but definitely a lot better than what everybody thought they were going to be. I had the Capitals out. And Penguins, sadly, Sidney Crosby's 16-year straight tenure in the playoffs in the after season, in the playoffs postseason. Sadly, that comes to an end. It's almost a changing of hands here of the guard with Ovechkin and Crosby missing the playoffs for the first time together in 16 years. Kind of disappointing there, but what are you going to do about it? And in the Atlantic, I guess I had Boston having this in the playoffs, and that's kind of embarrassing because they tore up the league. Figured Florida would be a little better than what they were, but they still got in, so can't complain there. And just swapped Toronto and Tampa Bay there, and I was kind of onto it there. And maybe a little bit of anti-Toronto bias had them finishing after Tampa Bay, but hey, we got to play the game.
Well, and you finished with 10 out of the 16 teams as well. So you tied with Eric. You each had 10. I had 11. And now the moment of truth. We will find out if Frank can take this, if he can become the preseason prediction champion here. All right, Frank, let's bring up your predictions here. Tell us a little bit about what went right and what went wrong.
Sutter went wrong. Such high hopes after Trevelyan saved the offseason with getting Uyghur and Huberdeau and Kadri. But I don't know. Sutter can't adapt to his players. You know, Huberdeau's an East-West player. Sutter plays North-South, and he can't adapt. So that's a huge disappointment. And Seattle being last. What a surprise. I kept criticizing Francis from the expansion draft, saying, what is this guy doing? Well, that's why he's a GM, eh? And we're armchair GMs. I guess he knew what he was doing. What depth of scoring, like every line. So he doesn't have a first line, but he has like 3 second lines, which the depth is what they were 4th highest scoring team, I think, in the league. And that's because it's relentless. It's second line. So kudos to them. Had the Avs, Blues. I don't know sometimes what these people are doing. So Blues and Jets are my switch. The rest, okay. For the Met, like everybody else, New Jersey was on its way, but didn't think they were ready. And I missed out on Penguins, so I had to switch out Penguins and New Jersey for the predictions. Florida, after winning the President's Cup, they almost had a disastrous season, which was good for us. Montreal fans were like, yay, because we had their first pick this year. And it's like, so they squeak in the playoffs. They're the 18th best team, by the way. So if it was the old NHL top 16, they would not have made somebody out west would have made it before them. But I think I have 4 out of 4 in the Atlantic. Right? Yeah. So I had Boston 4th. Boston. Who knew?
Oh, no, Frank. No. And this is where I want the viewers to rewind the tape back to where Frank was, calling me out on my New Jersey finishing last place. But if we'll notice at Frank's pick, I have the little purple line showing his
Columbus in? Okay.
You had Columbus in. So
right, I don't remember. So
Columbus and Calgary.
What?
Columbus and Calgary, I think, were the two big misses there. And, of course, Seattle finishing, a lot higher up as well.
Yeah.
But
so
hey,
I think nobody figured Columbus would be as bad as they were with the Gaudreau signing. So everybody had them up. It's not that New Jersey was bad. It's just we all thought they were too young, unproven goalies, with getting Vanacek, etc. So kudos to them. I remember during that podcast, I said Jack Hughes would get 100 points, and you laughed at me, and everybody said, come on, man, that's not going to happen. Well, it didn't happen. He got 99, poor guy. So I think like Jack Hughes coming into his own as a superstar, not as a star, as a superstar. I said it would be a point per game. I don't know where he finished, but everything fell right for New Jersey, and Vanacek just stood on his head. So they gambled on Washington's reject. Both teams that gambled on Washington's reject, the Leafs and New Jersey, both did very well with the rejects. Whereas Washington probably wished they kept the rejects. So, and Washington, Capitals, it's too bad. They lost so many players to long-term injuries. Backstrom came back at the end. Carlson, went out with a broken face. He got the puck. So just too many injuries to overcome to key players. So, and Pittsburgh, they didn't have any injuries. I think this is going to be the first year Sid, Gino, and Letang all played 82 games. And I think it's the first time in their careers they all played 82 games together. And we know why Hextall got fired, because he's incompetent. He's directly responsible. And I want to make one little point. Chicago eliminated Calgary, eliminated Pittsburgh in the last 2 weeks, and took themselves out of the Bedard Cup by beating Calgary and beating Pittsburgh. It's like, that was shocking, because Pittsburgh, all they had to do was beat Chicago and Columbus. They were in the playoff. Everybody says they have the advantage. They're facing Chicago that doesn't want to win, and they lost. And then Islanders were in the driver's seat. But the weekend before, or the week before, Calgary was facing Chicago, and they lost. And a big reason Florida made the playoffs is they won all 5 games against Montreal, I think, or 4 games. They won all the games. So those points made them in the playoffs. So just a little anecdotal. So what's my final count? I can't count.
You finished with 11 as well, so pretty even all around. You had 11, I had 11, and then Eric and Ryan each had 10.
Did any of us have Boston making the playoffs?
I believe.
Oh yeah, Glenn did.
I believe I had them just getting in. Yes. So yeah, I guess that's the tiebreaker. That's a tiebreaker, Frank, is I had Columbus missing, and who else did? We were pretty close on a lot of them here. Who else did? Let's see. Oh yeah, you had Columbus making it in, and we were pretty close, except Seattle. None of us could have imagined Seattle getting in. All right. Well, let's move on to the next segment. In segment number 1, Frank, you had the last say. You are going to get the first say now. And a little bit, first of all, we're going to go around the league as well, and our big surprise disappointment from the entire league. But let's start with your favorite team. And then we'll ask Ryan about the Oilers and Eric about the Leafs. So your highlight, your disappointment for Montreal, and then from a league perspective.
Yep. So I sent you this picture. So if you look at it, you have the players on the ice. That's the players that actually played the last game. And the players on the bench are the injured players. And before you count, there's 15 of them. So Montreal, for the second year in a row, led the league in man games lost to injuries. So yes, we're rebuilding, but on top of it, we just were injured upon injuries. And at one point, and this is the good part of this season, is how the rookie defensemen played so well. Goulet, Harris, Barron, the whole Jakai, the whole lot of them. At one point, we had 5 rookie defensemen playing in games, and they all did absolutely amazing job. So that's great for the future, because the development they got is invaluable this year. So I would say the surprise is the D-core as a group. So they're very entertaining group also. Jakai's a throwback to old style hockey. And he was a surprise. He was a free agent signing, never drafted. So he made the league, but he made it because of all the injuries, obviously. So that's the biggest surprise, is the development of the D-core, and the disappointment is the injuries upon injuries. And it's like every time, like Monahan went down in December, he ended up being out for the rest of the year. Like all these injuries were rest of the year. Caulfield, rest of the year. And he's the leading scorer for the Habs with 26 goals. But he hasn't played since, I think, January, because he's out for the year. Kirby Dach out for the year. It's like it was synonymous with any injury. Paul Byron didn't play a game. And there's a couple of other players that didn't play a single game. So that's the story of this year. Yes, we're rebuilding, but it was hard. We finished 12 points behind Detroit because there was so many injuries. It's impossible for a rebuilding team to overcome that. So that's the story. So Suzuki did well in his first year of being a captain. And like I said earlier, at least Laval made the playoffs. So that's going to be good for the player development going forward. For the league, the surprise is all these firsts we've had in the last 30, 40 years. The goal scoring is back. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players with 100 points or more. We had our first defenseman score 100 points since Brian Leach in 1992, I believe. It's like we had 260 goal scorers. So it's amazing what's happening with the young players, and it's great for the fans because we remember Jamie Benn in 2017-18. He won the Art Ross with 87 points. And here we have Connor having 153 points. So he probably would have taken 88 points to beat Ben, and then the rest of his points probably in the top 10 that year. So he's like 2 top 10s of that year. And then like Draisaitl, like 2 teammates, almost at 130, 128. Amazing, both scoring 50 goals. So it's just amazing for the league. And you look at Connor mid-20s, Draisaitl mid-20s, Pasternak mid-20s, Kucherov later 20s, but Robertson mid-20, 23, I think, a young Kachuk 24, McKinnon mid-20s, Nugent Hopkins is late 20s or 30s, but Rantanen mid-20s.
He just hit 30.
He's at 30?
Yeah, he turned 30 a couple days ago.
Okay, so I had 29 in mind, so I didn't know he just had a birthday, but he's the oldest guy from these top 100-point scorers because you have Rantanen mid-20s, Peterson mid-20s, Erik Karlsson is 32, 33, and then that's the guys who scored. It's all these young 20s except for 2 people, so it's exciting for the future of the league, for sure.
All right, Ryan, let's recap the Edmonton Oilers season. Finally, a solid season all the way around. They stumbled a little bit towards the beginning, but from January on, they played lights out. If not the best team in the league from January on, one of the best teams. So tell us your highs and lows from the Edmonton Oilers perspective.
The lows was talking about blowing it all up in late December and what the hell are we going to do with this team and what the hell is going on and why can't they be consistent and this and that. And then January comes and they have the best record in the league from January to the end of the season, beating out Boston, like I said earlier. Some pleasant surprises with Stuart Skinner coming in as a backup rookie goalie and stealing the show, and maybe just maybe outside shot of getting the Calder Trophy. Desharnais coming up, 26-year-old rookie defenseman, 6'7". You watch that guy in half the scrums after whistles, and he's grabbing 2 of the opposing players and holding them apart. He's just a beast of a man. Getting Matthias Ekholm at the trade deadline. From what I hear at this side of the country is Ekholm is considered the best single impact at the trade deadline by any GM, any team, any trade. That guy's come in and stabilized the defense, chipped in scoring, went plus 28 for the last 23 games of the season. Connor McDavid blowing up the league with 153 points, by far the most in the salary cap era. Draisaitl tying that old record in the salary cap era with Kucherov. Nugent Hopkins, the 3rd player on the team to get 100 points, having a breakout season at the age of 29-30. A lot of things went really right for the Oilers in the last half of the season. And they're peaking at the right time. What was that, 7 games in a row? where they only had 4 or 5 goals go in the net over the course of those games. So figuring out their play, figuring out how to play right at the right time, right before the playoffs, a lot to be excited for. Shutting out the LA Kings and then beating them again a couple nights later, and now we're playing them first in the playoffs. So with a lot of stress off of the minds of the fans over here, seeing that we kind of had an answer for LA style of play. I mean, I guess one of the big questions we have is what do we do with a $5 million a year backup? Could cause issues. Maybe he bounces back next year. Maybe he takes the reins back from Skinner in the playoffs and goes for a run. Who knows? But it's not looking like a great signing. We'll see where it goes, I guess. And then I guess Yamamoto just can't find his game, and that's a $3 million hole in the top 6.
I think if you would have said at the beginning of the season that Stuart Skinner would play more games than Jack Campbell, I think a lot of people would have laughed at you.
Well, either something went really wrong or something went really right, and something happened to go really right. But we wouldn't be in the Oilers wouldn't have finished as well as they did if it wasn't for Campbell's play in January, because he went on a run in January and stole quite a few games for the Oilers that started this whole run to the end of the year.
Yeah, but I remember all 3 of you, none of you were very excited with the Campbell signing at the beginning of the year. It was unanimous from the locals. So thank God for Skinner, 29 wins as a rookie on that type of team.
Beat Grant Fuhr's record.
Yeah, kudos to him. Goalies never get any respect in the Calder races. It's unfortunate, but without him, they're probably don't make the playoffs, because Campbell was that much of a disaster except that little run. So, but for a rookie and with that type of team loaded, that's a lot of pressure.
He's such a calm goalie in the net. Like, he's very calculated. He's in the right place. The defense know where the rebounds are going. If he even gives up a rebound, he's not scrambling. He's a very, very functional goaltender.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got to move on here, guys, because this isn't the Edmonton Oiler Hour, even though Ryan would probably like that. So, Ryan, what about your highlights and lowlights for the entire league for the 2023 season?
Well, what the hell happened at Boston? They ate their Wheaties before the season started. Came out like a house on fire and finished like a house on fire. Question for the panel, I guess, for Boston is if they go on to win the Cup, are they regarded the best team in history? Best single season team in history? Maybe not. Who knows? But they broke all sorts of point records and win records and what happens.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think those Montreal teams, the Edmonton teams of the past. The Islanders,
the Oilers, the Habs, multiple versions of the Habs are just too tough to top. Like the Islanders, go back to the early 80s, man. What a balance, man. They had everything. They even had chop goalie that wasn't afraid to chop the ankles of players in front of the net. So that's hard to beat, And it's like, unless Boston goes 16-0 in the playoffs, no. They're just well balanced. And
well, their top 2 centers make what, $3.5 million combined? Can't beat that.
They're also 36. They're also 36 and 37. Yeah. Who knew?
I guess another positive too is Ottawa taking a step forward. Toronto's not careful. Next year, Ottawa could be nipping at their heels. Same with Tampa Bay. Ottawa's putting it together, and they're putting it together pretty quick. And a couple disappointments, I guess, would be Calgary and Vancouver, teams that were trending up over more or less and just falling on their face.
Okay. Yeah. And for me, my kind of disappointments were St. Louis. I never thought, a team that had just won the Stanley Cup a few years ago would fall as flat as they did. Pittsburgh, a little bit disappointing, although I kind of figured they'd be a bubble team, but they just missed out. New Jersey, huge surprise. And of course, Seattle.
At some point, the Pittsburghs, the Washingtons, the Bostons, all these teams that just traded the future for now, it's going to catch up to them at some point. And it's starting to, except for Boston. That just
All right.
whatever happened there.
Speaking of trading the future for now, let's go on to Eric and his Maple Leaf. So, Eric, highlights, lowlights, if any, from the Maple Leaf perspective.
Well, we'll start. Certainly, there are lowlights. Of course, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, so that comes with it. But we'll start with the highlights. Certainly, Marner, although he did not get his 100 points, and even though he played yesterday and had so many opportunities with an empty net and so on, so I think there was a genuine disappointment about that, because Marner truly has been a very bright light for the Leafs this year, and so that's something for sure. Samsonov has been, thank God for Samsonov, because you talk about the Oilers not making the playoffs, the Leafs not making the playoffs. Samsonov played very well. Murray was good at times, but it's just typical, and I'm pretty sure Frank predicted that and talked about that too, and said, this guy's going to get injured right away, and did have that injury plague season. Obviously, he's not going to be playing in the playoffs at all. That's not the expectation. So you got Wall as the backup to Samsonov, and God help him if Samsonov falls. Right, it'll be very quick, and let the memes start for our poor Maple Leafs. Nylander and it came back, and John Tavares. He was old. He hasn't done anything. Certainly, that contract is huge, and I thought he had a pretty decent year, a much better year coming back. So that was good. Disappointments. I've already mentioned Murray. I think that was a disappointment. The future is now. There's a real sense that the 7 years of I think they would set a record this year for futility if this would be their 7th consecutive first round exit. So it's not a record that I want them to set. The rest of Canada probably is okay with it. But I would like, I think this is the year that they're going to break that. And I really hope it looks very promising. Last year at this time when they were looking, across the Bay team, I don't think anybody was they said, oh, the Leafs, they should be okay. They can really do it. But, it was Tampa come Stanley Cup champions and so on. A year later, I would say more people are on thinking that it would be an upset if Tampa was to take the Leafs. And I don't think they felt that way last year. So there you go. I think, I hope everybody gels. The Ryan O'Reilly thing has been disappointing only from the fact that, broke his finger. And of course, I've got to mention Frank's favorite Leaf, otherwise known as Captain Underpants. He certainly, although, it's funny, I was looking at stats and I was like, yeah, he sure didn't have much of a year. And then I look and see, he only got 40 goals, played 74 games, so 85 points in 74 games. Yeah, okay. So still, the way he gets, he's, the second coming and stuff when you hear people talk in Toronto, that isn't that. I mean, and I've said several times, I'd take McDavid 10 times over. I think he's a better hockey player. But we get the playoffs. And, maybe he certainly in the last 6 weeks, he's looked better. and hope reigns supreme. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, there you have it. Always.
What about my disappointment for the league?
Oh, your disappointment. Yes.
Yeah, or my surprise.
Hey, can I just add something? I just want to add something for the Leafs before you go to your league disappointments.
So do I.
No, but for a team that has 4 superstars, they've had 4 superstars for the last 4 years. And any team that has had that for 4 consecutive years, every single one of those teams reached the conference finals at least once. And because if the Leafs go out in the first round, they're going to break up that foursome. So this is the year for them, and they can't just win one round because this is going to be the 5th year with these 4 superstars, which is Marner, Nylander, Tavares, and Austin. And so they have to get it done now. And it's never been seen before. Every other team with 4 superstars at least went to conference finals. So the pressure is on them now. It's now or never, basically. There's not going to be any waiting time.
Ryan?
Yeah, just a little fun stat to shove it in the face of Leaf fans a little bit. In the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs, they've only had 3 different 100-point scorers, and the Oilers have had 3 different 100-point scorers this year. I saw that a couple weeks ago. I saw Marner having around 95 points. I figured, okay, well, Marner will make it 4 for them, but just realizing now he never quite got to 100. Yeah, it's kind of funny that the best team in the world has only had 300-point scorers in their history, and the Oilers tied that this year.
Interesting. All right, and Eric, your league.
How many Stanley Cups do you have?
You want to count that by a per year basis?
No, you want to go back to history and say, oh, how amazing it is. Well, that's amazing. Okay, you know what? We doubled you. Well, so there you go. Like seriously. Oh, you guys. Anyway, all right. Let's talk. Let's talk the Calgary Flames. Wow, that to me, New Jersey and so on, pleasant surprises. I really, there's a part of me that really wants to go, Calgary, suck it, and so on. But it's, I really do feel for them, actually, and I'm going to be very kind. And maybe you'll get somebody to come on for the Calgary people because, wow, how disappointing. I know how I would feel in that situation when it looks so promising, and Kadri, certainly that last game, I think it was just, you wanted to, as a Flames fan, I think you'd want to punch him in the face. He just looked like he gave up. And certainly, Huberdeau had, I heard this stat, this is an interesting stat, that he had the same 5-on-5 goals as Derek Ryan, who plays on the 4th line for the Oilers, and certainly doesn't make Huberdeau money. So very disappointing. And finally, Markstrom. Oilers wanted him. Oilers wanted him so badly, and they went after him hardcore and didn't get him. And we see what happened. And he had just a sad year. And
by the way, if they would have had him last year, Oilers probably win the cup.
Yeah, perhaps they would have. Yeah, for sure, right? Because he had a great and so I do feel for them. I really do. It's easy to gloat. Memories are short. There was a decade of darkness here, but
Kadri also had problems with the Sutter system. So Huberdeau his style. He's east-west versus north-south. But Kadri, he doesn't like having handcuffs on his game, and you see it. He's not he was never the most disciplined guy in Colorado, but he's just got he bases his game on his instincts, not on systems. And it's like you have these thoroughbreds that you're not allowing their talent to shine, and it's flabbergasting. And I think Sutter lost the room with the comment on Huberdeau in November that he was probably taking a shit. That the players were not happy about that, and I think that's when he lost the room. So hopefully Calgary does what Pittsburgh did. Pittsburgh didn't wait 2 seconds. The whole second floor got fired, and they said, "Nah, we're not even going to wait around. Let's just reset." Trevelling did a good job. He gave the coaching staff the ammunition to make the playoffs and be a good team. They dropped the ball. In Pittsburgh, it's the opposite. But yeah, it's shocking what happened in Calgary this year.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right, guys, it's time to look into that crystal ball and decide who we think might be the winner for some of the major awards. Before we get on to our playoff predictions, let's kind of take a peek at some of the awards. Now, the Hart Award, I don't know if we need to spend much time on this. Are we all in agreement that Connor McDavid?
It's in the bag.
Ryan, what about you? Any
Toronto are voting.
Yeah. Who's voting here? Toronto or okay? So Connor McDavid aside, who is the next person that deserves the MVP? Remember, this is most valuable to their team, not the highest point scorer, not the most popular, most valuable to their team. Without this player, their team does a lot worse. We'll start with you, Eric, since you finished off the last one. Who other than McDavid? Does it go to Draisaitl or someone else?
No, I think it would. I Jack Hughes. I would go with most valuable to his team. Would be Jack Hughes for me, because Draisaitl is very valuable, but of course he's always going to be in the shadow. And Robertson was a nice story. Kind of came out of nowhere, really, for me. But the Jack Hughes thing, for such a young guy, he really, look at what New Jersey has done. So that would be my vote. Yeah.
And Frank?
Unlike Eric, it's JR. He's got 109 points on Dallas without, like Heiskanen had the D, Ottinger had the G, but without his offense, they finished 1 point behind Colorado and 1 point behind, 2 points, 3 points behind Vegas. So, and he outpointed his teammate, next closest teammate, by 21 points. So that's just dominant. So I have to go with him. Pasternak. It's such a team game for Boston that he should be second. But you say, man, if he would not have played as well, Boston goes for 136 points to 110, So they're still top team in the league. But Dallas was a borderline playoff team from most experts, and they almost finished ahead of Colorado, and it's all JR. He was so dominant on the ice. So that's my vote. But there's lots of good candidates on this list.
And Ryan, how about you if it's not McDavid?
I'd have to go with Mikko Rantanen. I think he only missed the one game for Colorado, but in a year where everybody was getting injured over there, he was that stabilizing force. Finished with over 100 points. Just a good leader, big guy. I'd have to go with him.
All right. Calder, one of my favorites, is the Rookie of the Year, an award that the Edmonton Oilers have never won as long as they've been in the NHL. They have not had a Rookie of the Year winner. And a lot of times it's due to circumstances, right? Wayne Gretzky coming over from a different league, Connor McDavid getting injured, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins getting injured in his rookie year.
Taylor Hall getting injured.
Yeah, Hall. So Maddie from Seattle is the odds-on favorite to win. Frank did mention that goalies don't seem to get the credit they might deserve for Rookie of the Year. My pick would be Skinner. I don't think Edmonton is in the playoffs, as someone else mentioned before. Let's go to Ryan first for this one. Who is your Rookie of the Year?
Here's a shocker. I want to go with Skinner. Just a stabilizing force on the save this season for the Oilers. Stabilizing force, calm guy back there. Playing like he's played in, maybe not at the beginning of the year, but the last half of the year, playing like he's been in the league for years.
Okay.
So I'll have to go with that guy.
Ryan or Eric?
I'm going to go with the Matty Bin. How do you say this?
Beniers.
Yeah. I'm going to go with him. Looking at his stats, he's got over 20 goals. He ended up with, I'm just looking here, 57 points. In this kind of league, that's pretty amazing. And Seattle, right? There's not a lot of superstars. He's not playing with Connor McDavid or what have you. Although shout out to Ryan, Jordan Eberle is there, so maybe that's something. But at the same,
best player in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, I think he's got it. I'm going to go with the number one choice there. Skinner did well, but even though he was only in 53 games or something along those lines. I agree with you. He wouldn't, he's been an all-star, but I'm going to go with Beniers.
And Frank?
Beniers is going to win it because Seattle 100 points in the playoffs, second year. He's a rookie playing the number one C over there. I said they had 3 second line, but the first second line is his line. So to do that as a rookie is impressive, but the person who should win it is Skinner because goalies, like Ullmark is in the running for the Hart. Not for the Hart, for the Vezina. And how many games did he play versus Skinner? So to me, it's like, what did Skinner? Somebody said 53. Is that the number of games he played?
I think he started 48, but played in 50.
Okay, played in 50. So he's short maybe 10 from a number one because number ones don't play 70 anymore. So to me, he was almost a full-timer. He should win it because his stat line is crazy good, but it's going to go to Beniers because goalies don't get any respect.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Well, we got 2 for Skinner, 2 for Beniers. We have unanimous for Connor McDavid for the Hart. Now, best defenseman. And here's one that, if Ekholm had played in Edmonton all year and played the way he has, I think
come on.
I think he would be on this list. Maybe not at the top, but he'd be on the list for Norris Trophy.
Maybe. Come on, man. Stop getting excited for this is where you become a fanboy. You lose all aspect of reality, man.
Okay, well, wishful thinking that he'd be on the list. It's been a while since Erik Karlsson has had the publicity of being a number one defenseman in the spotlight. A season beyond what any of us would have imagined. We know he has the talent, but injuries kind of caught up with him over the years, and just a fantastic season for Karlsson. He is, to me, the Norris winner. What do you guys think? Start with you, Frank. Is it a shoe-in for Karlsson?
Do you know which player has the most 5-on-5 points this year in the league?
Karlsson.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Connor McDavid has 153 points, and Karlsson has 100 and something. But Karlsson is the league leader, including forwards, for 5-on-5 points on a shitty San Jose team.
Yeah.
There's no describing what this guy has done. San Jose has 60 points. They scored 234 goals. He has 100 and some odd points. It's almost half. He's involved in half of the goals for San Jose. It's a season for the ages. No offense to all. There's lots of talented defensemen on here, but Karlsson was on another planet this year. It shouldn't even be a debate. When you have a season like that, like Connor the Hart, it should be mailed to him before the ceremony. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable what he did. Nobody expected it. He was 32 on the downside. His injury was very, very bad for a skater. And nobody would have said that the next 100-point scorer would be Carlson. Yossi almost made it last year, but Makar, Fox, all these kids, like, Hughes has 69 assists this year. The only Vancouver player ever to have more assists in the history of the Canucks is Henrik Sedin. One player in the history of Vancouver. So Quinn Hughes, like all these younger defensemen, they were the ones. Oh, Yossi missed it. That was the last for the old generation. The new generation are going to be the one to score 100 points. And here comes Carlson for the old folks in the room. So you cannot not give it to him. If they don't give it to him, this award is complete BS.
Eric, you agree?
100%. Yeah, I think Carlson leads this as much as McDavid leads the Hart. It's exactly the same as far as I'm concerned, or it should be. I realize the stats aren't the same there, but are the odds. But yeah, Carlson, that's a really bad team, and he stood out something else. And really, he played, he was great. And then, you skate off into the sunset into a Southern California team where they're going to pay you a lot of money and you can go to the beach every day. That's what was supposed to happen. He ended up being just fantastic. I give him a lot of credit. And I'm cheering for him. I think he absolutely 100%.
And he outscored his nearest teammate by 34 points as a defenseman.
Ryan, you going to make this unanimous? Carlson for the Norris?
Yeah, let's go with Carlson. I don't think he gets to here too with Brent Burns. If Brent Burns is still on the team, I don't think he would have had the season he had. They have to get Brent Burns out of the way to get this kind of production out of him. I also wanted to have a shout out to Adam Fox, just another stake in the heart for the Calgary Flames, as that guy continues to have a stellar career.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and the last trophy that we'll go through award is the Vezina. So, top goalie in the league, the odds-on favorite is Linus Ullmark from the Bruins. Again, fantastic season for the Bruins. Sorokin, Saros, Hellebuck, Shesterkin. What do you think, Ryan? Back to you with the Vezina winner.
Going to be pretty boring here. I'm going to have to go with Ullmark just with the overall Boston record. I know they played the backup quite a bit. I don't know what the exact playing time between the two goalies were, but you can't look at it at a season like what Boston had and not see who's in the net for them. So I'd have to go with Ullmark.
It's 49-37, and game started 48-33.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what his save percentage is. I know you're bringing that up as we chat. That number
938.
Yeah, that's okay. That 938, okay.
189 goals against average. Yeah.
Oh my God. So yeah, I'm done. Thanks.
And Frank, I'm sure you would concur.
Nope.
No.
No, the Jennings is the award for the best statistics for goalies. And that pair, Swayman and Ullmark, already won the Jennings. The Vezina is the best goaltender in the league. And that's not Ullmark, because compare his stats to Swayman. He didn't outperform Swayman by that much. But look at Sorokin versus his backup. Look at Hellebuck versus his backup. So my choice is Hellebuck, because he went 13 games in a row to end the year to will Winnipeg into the playoffs. That is, to me, the Vezina. It was close between Sorokin and Hellebuck, but at the end of the day, Hellebuck, 920 save percentage versus 901. It's not even comparable. One's below league average, the other one's way above. And it's going to be the same thing, Varlamov versus Sorokin. But I go with Hellebuck just for that end of the year. It encompasses the whole season, and he willed that team. He put that whole team on his shoulder, and he said, let's go make the playoff, boys. And to be in nets 13 in a row in this NHL is very hard to do. So to me, that is a Vezina trophy winner versus a statistical winner, which they already have their own trophy. So I will respectfully disagree with the panel.
Okay, yeah, definitely. He had one of his best years of his career. His rookie season, of course, only played 26 games, had a 234 goals against average, 236 goals against average in 2017, and then 249 this year. So, if we're looking at goalies and the Vezina in terms of kind of like that Hart kind of trophy, most valuable to their team.
That's what it is. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So like you said, if Boston had, pick random guy as a goalie, probably gets maybe not as great statistics, but Boston, they lose 5 less games, 8 less games. Hellebuck, without him, they're nowhere near the playoffs. Nowhere near it.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, good pick.
Same thing with Sorokin. Imagine the Islanders with that lack of offense without Sorokin. They don't make the playoffs. So yeah, that's why. And it's like everybody. I don't understand these odds. How is Carlson minus 300 and Ullmark minus 4,000, the same as Connor for the Hart? But the Vezina is not statistical. That's the Jennings, and that's already awarded. It's just weird to me that all these other goalies are not getting any respect because it's ridiculous. He ran away with the Jennings. But if Swayman would have been in net 60 games, Boston still finishes with 130 points.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what Ottinger's stats were in Dallas, but he probably is high up there as well, isn't he? I know. Do you know?
He's not even on the list. What lack of respect! Because his stats, I can pull it up right now. Dallas. His 237 goals against average and 919 save percentage, so almost a little bit better than Hellebuck. But see the save percentage with Wedgwood is similar, not the GAA. But Hellebuck is 20 beeps better, so it's a clear demarcation. That's why you have to look at for goalies. If there's a clear demarcation between the starter and the backup, then you have a quality above average goalie as your starter. And that's where GM makes mistakes with giving out contracts because they don't deserve $10 million a year if they're playing similar to their backups. It's just that they're getting the wins and all that because they're starting, Yeah.
All right. Well, it is that time for our fearless playoff predictions. Now that we know who is playing who and all the matchups are set, and Monday night, I believe it is the 17th. Yeah, the 17th that the games begin. But before we do that, we got to take a look at the losers. Because one of these teams here will get Connor Bedard. And mind you, the consolation, it's no Bedard, but, Frank has mentioned all year that this is a really good draft class. Your top 5, your top 6 players are going to be impact players on the teams that draft them. So there is hope for Montreal to get one of those top players. In terms of the draft lottery, they usually do that about halfway through the playoffs, I think.
May 8th. Trust me, I know, because unlike you guys, you have something to look forward to. For Montreal and Ottawa, Vancouver, we look May 8th is the lottery.
I know it's May 8th because I know it's my birthday.
Yes, it was only a few years ago that Edmonton moved up from number 3 it was Buffalo, Phoenix, and Edmonton in that order. And then Edmonton moved up to the number 1 position. So Anaheim finishing in last has that 25% odds. Columbus
They
at
lost
13
13 in a row.
Look at that streak.
Holy moly. No wonder why Aikens is out of there.
Yeah.
They knew how to do it right in terms of the tank. Yes. San Jose lost 6 in a row, and then you had Detroit went on a little bit of a bender towards.
Look at Arizona's last 10. They were a point ahead of Montreal, and they said, "All right, let's have Montreal go in front of us." They did everything they could, man. They got 4 points, but Montreal got 6, but they didn't quite catch up. But they did everything, but Montreal at the end, man, we were fielding a ECHL team, So, but they tried their darndest to go ahead of us but it didn't work. But a 1-7-2, so they went, let's do Anaheim, and so what's their odds now? 7.5. So they did all that for 1%. It's stupid.
And
you teach your youngsters to lose for 1%. It's so stupid.
I think this is like the most teams we've had, this close for the worst spot. So there definitely was a tank for Bedard here. 2 points separating 4 teams in that race. So is this the year that the number 1 losingest team wins the draft lottery, or does someone move up? I mean, technically Nashville could get first pick. Pittsburgh, could you imagine if Pittsburgh got Connor Bedard? It'd be like
can't. Pittsburgh cannot. They can only move up 10. So they can.
Is that the new? That's the new rule. So the bottom 5 teams can only move up 10 spots. So Vancouver would be the team here that could get Bedard. Yeah.
Yeah. Ottawa, Arizona, Ottawa, they could go to number 2.
Okay.
Because they only draw 2. So they draw there's a lottery for the first and the second pick. That's the only 2 lotteries there is. So Ottawa could go up to number 2, and then everybody goes down two slots behind if both of them, So
okay. So we'll quickly just look into that crystal ball very quickly. You don't need to spend too much time on this. Take 30 seconds. Ryan, who will win? Who should win? The Connor Bedard sweepstakes.
I mean, Anaheim will probably win statistically. Who should get the
No, statistically they won't. They have 75% chance of not winning.
But if you're picking one team, that one team has the greatest percentage to win.
Yeah.
Who should get Bedard? That's a good question. Maybe Arizona save their franchise. If you want to save their franchise, they might not even be Arizona by the time next year comes around.
Okay.
Yeah, say Arizona.
Okay, Eric, who will win? Who should win? Who deserves to get him based on?
I think Anaheim's going to win, and Montreal deserves. We need Montreal back, and Bedard would help that considerably. So that's where my prayers go to the Canadians. Yeah. So there you go. That's who I want.
And Frank?
Chicago will win because it's never the number 1 team that gets it, like statistically speaking. So I'm just going to throw a dart and say Chicago. And that fits that who should win. They stripped their team down so much. They have nothing. So, having Bedard play in front of 2,000 spectators in Arizona is an insult to him as a player. So, because they're not going to, if they get the vote in May, there's 4-5 more years playing in that.
Jesus.
Like neighborhood.
Do you think Quebec City can handle another NHL team?
Of course. Anyway, so I hope Arizona does not get Bedard or Fantilli. So Chicago, my first pick. Columbus, they have no C's, so that would be great fit. Anaheim, they have Zegras, they have McTavish. They don't deserve Bedard. So hopefully they go down 2 spots so they can pick a winger to go with their centers. And then poor Philadelphia, man. that would be a good story for them. To get a true number one center that they missed on. Nolan Patrick, all their draft, they keep missing when they're in the top. So here's a can't miss. Here, we dumbed it for you. Bedard, you can't go wrong. So, because Philadelphia, they're suffering. So that would be a cool story. So.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to go with you, Frank, and I think Chicago wins it. I just think, losing possibly Taves and Kane gone, maybe it's the moment for them to get that next franchise player. So I think they will win. I'm hoping that either Montreal or even Vancouver. I think if Vancouver won, I don't think they've ever had first pick overall, and it would be great to see Bedard in the West against Edmonton for many more years to come, as long as they don't screw him up and he wants out after his.
Between Anaheim and San Jose, it's a pretty good chance he's going to the West anyway.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, absolutely. So, but I want him in the spotlight. Like, I don't know how much notoriety he would get in San Jose or Anaheim, in Canadian market, Montreal especially, even Vancouver, Chicago. I think he's going to have that limelight. And I think what a cool story would be too, playing with Ovechkin. If Washington wins this, better chance on Ovechkin passing Wayne Gretzky's goal mark. He probably will do it anyway, but with Bedard there, I think it would be a sure thing, barring injury. So, Chicago will win.
Washington would be a feel-good story.
Yeah.
It would kickstart their rebuild that they're going to do in 2-3 years. And that's when, we have to remember McDavid didn't become dominant until 2-3 years in. So Bedard's not going to come in and be dominant. But by the time he's dominant, that's when Ovechkin will have retired. So that would be a perfect next step for Washington, because the management there is not as incompetent as in other places. Let's just be polite. Like Vancouver. Yes, it would be nice for Bedard to go there, but they'll find a way to mess it up.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what the random NHL draft lottery simulator has to say. In 23 days, 19 hours, we have the draft lottery. So according to the random simulator, we have first pick going to Anaheim Mighty
Ottawa
Ducks.
moves up 10
Oh, wow. 10 spots. That would be, wow. Fantilli in Ottawa. Wow.
Look out, Leafs. Look out, Leafs. So, yeah, the biggest winner there obviously is Anaheim getting Bedard, but I think Ottawa would take that all day.
Oh, could you imagine him in that young core? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and that because Josh Norris is not a true number one. He's like Suzuki in Montreal, On a great team, he's a great number two, So that would slot him number two, slide Pinto number three, and they already have all the wingers. That would be the dream for Ottawa. Oh my God, they'd have a true number one center to go with Batherson and Tkachuk. Hey, imagine Tkachuk, he'd be a 100-point player in a couple of years because Fantilli again is not going to come and dominate. It's going to take a couple of years. But wow, that would be a good fit for the number two in Ottawa for Fantilli. And then according to this,
Montreal gets number 6.
Michkov is probably going to Chicago in this scenario. Columbus, they're not going to wait 4 years. They're not going to waste Gaudreau's contract. So they're probably going to go with Leo Carlson. And then Chicago, they don't care. They have nothing. So they can wait the 4 years. Do a Kaprizov in Minnesota. So that means Michkov is going to go 4.
All right. We are back. We are back to make our playoff predictions, and then we'll find out in the summertime how horribly we were at making these playoff predictions. All right, we're going to start. We're going to start off with Eric here. So I've got the 16 teams that have made the playoffs. The second team is the home team here. Let's start off with the 4 teams here, or kind of what I call the Atlantic Division. Eric, how do you see those 2 matchups going?
I'm glad that Florida is facing Boston. I think that puts a little bit of fear into Boston. And I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to say Florida in 7. Yeah, Florida in 7. I'm sorry, Boston. That was great. You set records, but you suck. Goodbye. And,
Jesus.
and
He just doesn't want the Leafs to face him in the next round.
don't worry about that. Good old, let's see. So then I'm thinking Carolina will take the Islanders. The Islanders just don't score enough. And so there you go.
That Pugliarvi effect.
There you go. Then, okay. So Glennie, I'm a bit confused. So that was the Atlantic that we were in.
I've just kind of divided them into blocks of 4. So next you have the Rangers against the Devils.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Rangers against the Devils. I think the Rangers are going to take it. Do you want the games, or you don't care? Just who's going to win?
Give the games. Might as well give the games.
Okay, so I say it's going to be the Rangers in 6, and Leafs versus Lightning. This is for Ryan for sure. I'm going to say the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we're going to do that. We're going to do it in 5, mothers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, Seattle in Colorado.
Colorado in 5.
Minnesota in Dallas.
Unlike John, who sent some stuff out today, said Minnesota's going to lose because it's Minnesota. I truly think that Minnesota is actually going to prevail here. And so I'm going to say Minnesota in 7. There's my 7th game.
All right. Winnipeg versus Vegas.
I'd like to call another upset because there's a hot goalie. And Vegas, I think, can be had. So this is more a heart one. So I'll probably eat crow on this one. More so than even the Boston, Florida. But I'm going to go, Vegas is out. And LA.
And how many games in that one?
Oh, how many games in that one? I'm going to say 6.
And LA, Edmonton.
LA, Edmonton. It's going to go. It's going to go 7, and it's going to be Oil one more time.
All right, there you have it. So Carolina, Florida, the Rangers, the Leafs, the Avs, the Wild, the Jets, and the Oilers moving off to round 2. Now, at the beginning of the year, Eric, you had predicted the New York Rangers playing the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup final. Who are you? Are you sticking with that, or you got a couple different teams?
No, Oilers are coming out of the West. I'm quite comfortable with that. And the Rangers, probably, you know what? No, I think truly I've been drinking a lot of Kool-Aid. Why not? Why not? Why not? Damn it. Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh my!
So you're going to Toronto Edmonton final, and who takes it and in how many games?
Well,
who's your Stanley Cup winner?
My Stanley Cup winner, of course, is going to be with the Heart, and that's right, everybody. It's 1967 all over again, except in color this time, and the Leafs do it in 7.
I've heard some bold predictions in my life. That one takes the cake.
You know what?
Well, there you have it.
Sometime. Even the Chicago Cubs won, for God's sake, once.
You heard it here first. The Toronto Maple Leafs in 7 games over the Edmonton Oilers. Now, I believe Edmonton had the better season record, if I'm not mistaken. So they would be hosting Game 7, if I'm correct in that. Let me just check the standings.
107 points, right?
Oh, the Leafs had 111.
Yeah. So
and Edmonton had 109.
Little
so
bit of
Toronto.
bias on your part. Yeah. Thanks. Anyway, yeah. So there you go. Toronto would host. It would be in the city of love, Toronto, and we would have our arms like this. I gotta get into the screen. That's the Stanley Cup that I'm holding. It would be beautiful, Ryan. So beautiful.
It'd be the Toronto Raptors all over again.
It would be the greatest thing ever. Greatest.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to make my picks here quickly, and then we'll go to Ryan and Frank. So in the Carolina Islanders series, I am going with an upset here. I'm going with the goaltending. I think that will win out here, and I'm going to go with Boston. So I'm going to go the Islanders in 7, and I'm going to go Boston in 5. I just think they're too powerful. No match. They're going to just beat down Florida. Florida has Tkachuk. Yeah, they have Barkov. They've got, fairly good goaltending, but Boston just too good. So Boston in 5, Islanders in 7. Rangers, I'm going to take in 5 games as well. I think Jersey's just happy to make the dance. I don't think they're going to advance any further out of that first round. Rangers, again, adding Kane, adding all the pieces, having, the goaltending that they do, just too strong. But good on Jersey to make it as far as they did. The Leafs and the Lightning, that is going to be the most interesting to watch. That is a coin flip. It really is a coin flip. The experience against the talent. And I'm going to go, sorry, Eric, but I'm going to go.
I hope he's
experience.
Seriously, that's so wrong.
I'm going to go in 7. Lightning are going to take it in 7 in Toronto.
No.
Avalanche, I think that's going to be an easy series for them. I think Seattle will win a game, but Avalanche will take it in 5. And Dallas, I think, is going to take it over Minnesota. I think they're going to take it in 6 games. So that is the Central. And then in the Pacific, I do agree with you on this one, Eric, that I think Hellebuck is going to steal a series. He's in playoff mode. He has been in playoff mode in the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to take them in 6. And Edmonton and LA went 7 last year. I think Edmonton's going to take it in 5. I think they're just destined to win it a lot quicker this year. So Islanders, Boston, Tampa, Rangers, Avs, Dallas, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. Back in October, I had predicted a Rangers Avalanche final. And I'm going to stick with the Avalanche, but I'm going to go with Boston. I think Edmonton's going to push them in the semifinal, but I just think Colorado will win it in 7. So I'm going to say Boston over the Avalanche in 6 to win the Stanley Cup. All right, next we go on to Ryan. What do you see? What do you see? What do you say?
The Islanders just don't feel right to me. I'm going to have to say, Carolina, they've been really good for a long time. They just have to keep on trying to make that next step. So I'm going to go with Carolina in 5. I'm going to have to go with Florida over Boston. I think Florida over Boston in 7. Boston had a really good regular season, but you always talk about adversity and teams that win the President's Trophy and how so few actually make their way to the Cup final, let alone win the Cup. So I have to go with Florida in 7, and then Rangers and Devils. Yeah, kind of the same sentiment as what was said. Devils are just happy to be there. They're going to get some experience this year. and probably make a step next year, but we'll go with the Rangers in 6. And
Curious on your take on this one. Lightning and the Leafs.
Lightning, they've been there, done that. So in Toronto, they have to make that next step. So the regular season means absolutely nothing to these two teams. Can't put a lot of emphasis on how they played in the regular season because it's how they show up for the playoffs. I'm going to go with the tried and true Bolts over Leafs in a heartbreaking 7th game loss.
In Toronto.
In Toronto.
Good Lord.
Vasilevsky over Samsonov.
Well,
all right.
That's not even a question. Although Vasilevsky kind of taken a little bit of a step back this year, but he's a playoff.
Seattle Avalanche. You got an upset there?
No. I think Avalanche it'll be a 5-gamer for the Avalanche.
But Jordan Eberle will score 6 goals, right?
Well, second best forward in that draft. I'll say it till the day I die. Minnesota and Dallas. It just seems like a boring series all around. It's just two teams I really just don't care about. Let's go with Dallas in 7.
7 for
Dallas.
Okay.
I think they have just a better all-around team than the Wild.
And then Pacific.
I'm going to go with Halibuck stealing a series. I'm going to go with the Jets over the Knights in 5. And then
I think Edmonton Edmonton matches up much better against LA. I'm kind of glad that Vegas took first place.
I don't know how much of you listen to the local radio around here, but they were polling the fans on a radio show a couple of days ago when Edmonton had a chance to play all 3 of these teams. They had a chance that they'd play Vegas, the Jets, and LA, all depending on how the last couple of games of the season went. And most of the fans were nervous to play Winnipeg just because of Halibuck.
Yep.
So I don't think it could be ignored. But for Edmonton and LA, I think yeah, funny jokes this morning or this afternoon. We're gonna go with LA. Oilers in 6.
You heard him. He's going with LA.
Oilers in 6.
So we got Winnipeg, Edmonton, Colorado, Dallas, the Rangers, the Lightning, Florida over Boston, and then the Hurricanes. I think you picked the exact same teams except for the Atlantic. I had Boston and the Islanders winning those 2. And Ryan, your Stanley Cup early predictions back in October at the beginning of the season was a Ranger-Oiler final. How are you thinking about that now?
I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Same too.
Part of me wants to see an Oiler Kane final, a Hurricane final, but I think it'll be more likely that an Oiler Ranger final happens.
All right, and who are you calling for the win?
Oh, Jesus, that's so far away. I want to say Oilers in 7. Fanboy
again. So we got Eric picking the Leafs in 7. We've got Ryan picking the Oilers in 7. I'm picking the Boston Bruins in 6.
You think Frank will pick Montreal in 7?
No, I don't think Frank will go that far. But speaking of Frank's picks, all right, Frank, let's start with the Islanders and Carolina. And I think you're still on mute. There you go.
Unmuting would help. Yeah, that's the battle of the non-stars. Best scorer on Carolina, 71 points. Best scorer on the Islanders is Nelson, I think, with 75. That's a tough one. In the playoffs, you need that guy to score. I remember PK Subban scoring on Boston in the playoffs where he went around the zone, and then he scored. Neither of these teams have I need a goal. Who is going to go score it? So I'm going to go with goaltending because I think Sorokin is way better than Anderson. He got outplayed by Ranta, and I got outplayed by the rookie, Pior. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the goalie. Playoffs, it's always about the goalie. So, same reason why I'm going to go with Boston. They have two goalies that are better than the Florida goalie. That's going to be the Achilles heel for Florida. They have all the firepower in the world, but Bobrovsky, they don't even have Spencer Knight. They got this 31-year-old rookie. You don't go in the playoffs with rookies, especially when they're 31. You know, he went on a super hot streak, but anyways. So,
right. Next, Rangers and Devils.
That's going to be an exciting series. Shirtpikin had a bad year. Vanecek is unproven. No backups on either team because Halak was horrendous. Blackwood was horrendous. It's going to be that's a tight matchup, man, because there's superstars on both teams. Oh, it's a pick 'em, that one. So I'm going to go with the Rangers because New Jersey is the Rangers of last year. So Rangers were missing that little oomph last year. They got eliminated because they didn't have that experience, etc. You know, Patrick Kane, he's not producing as much as he used to, but he's a cup winner. Tarasenko is a cup winner with St. Louis. So that's going to help in the room I think New Jersey is going to learn a lot. So this is probably going to set them up to do well next year. So I'm going to go with the Rangers at the end of the day.
Tampa, Toronto. Just remember, Eric's a sensitive guy here. So both Ryan and I have Toronto losing to Tampa in the first round. So what do you think?
Yeah, Toronto. I think they continue their streak of not losing. So I think they're going to win actually this time. And the reason why is Janot is gone for the year. That was the depth Tampa needed. That's been their bread and butter in their cup runs. The Goudreaus, the Hagels, all these Nick Paul last year, etc. So they got Janot. They paid a huge price, but he's gone for the year. So I think they're going to lack a little bit of depth. But Vasilevsky, all he needs to do, I don't trust Samsonov. He had a great year, but he's unproven and then going with a rookie. So I'm still going to go with Toronto just because you can't lose 8 in a row, 5 in a row with 4 superstars. To me, that's unfathomable. So I'm going to go with the Leafs just because of that. So I'm not picking games because I think that's pretty useless. It's like flipping a coin. So I'll let the viewers pick the number of teams. All
right. Avalanche and Kraken. Is this a Cinderella run for Seattle?
No, they don't have goaltending. So they were winning with depth, but they won't be able to do anything against McKinnon and Rantanen. So they're going to be out of their depth. So that's that. I'm going to pick the games. That's probably going in 4. There's always a couple of series that go the Brooms. Well, that's going to be one of them. So, no goaltending. And Avalanche goaltending is iffy also with Georgiev, but Seattle, it's bad. So,
right. And then probably the series with the least amount of goals, Minnesota and Dallas.
Yeah. So here, best goaltender advantage, Dallas. Gustafsson and Fleury. Fleury's very old, and they said they're going to go in a tandem. And then you got superstar Kaprizov versus JR. It's a push. But is Kaprizov fully healthy? He just came back at the end of the year. So is he fully healthy? Who knows? No centers to speak of in Minnesota. So I'm going to go with Dallas. Always in the playoffs, it's always a good idea to follow their goaltending. Just like in criminal cases, you follow the money. In the playoffs, you follow the goaltending.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah. So
So does that mean you're taking Winnipeg and Hellebuck over Vegas?
That is what I'm saying, because for two reasons. Don't trust Eichel yet in the playoffs. I think last year was his first playoff. Or no, they didn't make the playoff. So that's his first playoff experience. So he's an unproven commodity. And Logan Thompson is out. That was their de facto number one. Lainer was number one. He hasn't played all year. So Aiden Hill is hurt. They don't know if he's coming back. He came back from the AHL but didn't play in the regular season. So they're playing Brossois, who used to be your backup in oil country, and this dude I've never heard of, Ferguson or something. It's an ex-Ottawa goalie. So, no, they won't be able to get it done. Sorry. So, Winnipeg is going to win that one, and then the next one is easy. People in LA like to think they'll match up well against the Oilers, but Korpisalo, if it's, Korpisalo got traded, he got on a hot streak, but just look at Korpisalo's numbers in Columbus. That's scary against the Oilers. So I'm going to go with the Oilers.
All right, Islanders, Bruins, Rangers, Leafs, Avs, Stars, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. And back in October, Frank.
Oh, hold on, I'll give you an extra prediction. Leafs are going to get lose in the second round. So I have them winning round one. But that's it. That's all. So my prediction. Yeah, Calgary. Yeah, that's for sure. I'm not going with my prediction. Poor Daryl Sutter. So I'm gonna change both of them because I don't think it's tough. No, I'm gonna go with the Bruins, and then out west, I'm gonna go with Avalanche. And who wins? If Boston wins, I think it's the last hurrah for Patrice Bergeron. They're gonna They're gonna empty the tank, and him and Krejci are gonna retire on the Stanley Cup. So I think, but that's going to be if that's the finals, that's going to be an amazing final because it's the old guard versus the newish guard, the newish team that's trying to establish themselves as a mini dynasty because long dynasties don't exist anymore. So if the Avs repeat, that they're going to try to repeat, and Boston's going to try to say, nah, we're going out to the sunset because Pasternak, who knows if they're going to sign him? He's going to want big money. So it's probably the end of the line for Boston as we know them now. So, yeah.
All right. Well,
exciting.
Frank and I have both picked the same two teams in the finals. I've got Boston over Colorado in 6 games. Eric has Toronto over Edmonton in 7. And Ryan is going with the Oilers over the Rangers. I believe he said in game 7 as well. So we've got some Oiler picks there. We've got some Boston picks. We'll find out in a few months. Let's finish off with your dark horse Stanley Cup winner. Who is the team that, if there is a surprise team that wins the cup this year, your best bet on that? We'll start with Frank.
That's a good question. I'm going to go the opposite of – I'm going to go with somebody that does not have goaltending. So to me, it would be shocking if Florida wins the cup with the goaltending they have. So that's my shock pick.
Okay.
Alec Leon, come on, man. If they win the cup with him – hats off to Matt Tkachuk and Barkov and Reinhardt, and because they're going to win games like 7-5, 6-4. So it would be shocking for me if Florida. It's too bad, but the Spencer Knight is gone with his little problems. We don't know what it is. mental health issues or substance abuse. We don't really know. It would be shocking if Florida wins the cup.
All right, and you wouldn't have said that last year because they were one of the favorites going into last year's playoffs on taking it all. Ryan, who is your dark horse?
I'm going to go with the Devils, the new kids on the block.
Good pick.
Good first time in the playoff. Bunch of young, well, not first time. They made the playoffs a couple years ago, but a bunch of young guys coming in. Maybe a little excited, getting a little bit of a run and make.
It's rare to go on your first run as a group and win. So yeah, that's a good pick also.
Okay, so
maybe Toronto too.
Don't suck up to Eric now.
Toronto has set themselves up with a nice little Cinderella story here. So if they go on a run, it's going to be about how they overcame their demons. So who knows?
Well, here's the good thing, Ryan. Eric picked Toronto to win the cup, but it's probably also going to be his dark horse pick to win the cup. Let's find out. Eric, who is your dark horse for the Stanley Cup?
Dark horse would be Florida. Just because I think everybody, look how great they were last year and then they fell apart. So, if they beat Boston, wow, there's your ticket. And it could be their time. And they are a fairly decent team. Frank mentioned the goaltending is questionable, and I agree. But and that being said, well, I was just going to say, and from the West, I would go Winnipeg because goaltending can do it all. So on the East, I'm going no goaltending. That's okay. I'm going to go Florida as my dark. And on the West, I'm going to go Winnipeg because they have goaltending. Weird, eh? So there you go. And and I will say thank you, Frank, for your lovely prediction of a second round for the Leafs and then kicking them out. But I'm coming for the Ryan, and I'm coming from Laptop Hound. And boy, I'll tell you, you guys, I will be texting you 3 in the morning. 3 in the freaking morning, I will be texting you. I will be just like, I'm a retired guy. I don't care. I don't sleep. It doesn't matter. I'm coming. So,
I just wanted to add for Florida because I didn't notice that when I picked them. Not only do they have to beat Boston, but in the second round they have to beat. I just looked at the brackets. They have to beat the Leafs or the Tampa Bay Lightning. So their first 2 rounds are going to be insane if they beat those 2 teams. It's like New Jersey. If they beat the Rangers, they either have Islanders or Carolina. That's very doable for New Jersey. But Florida against Toronto or Tampa. If they go do that, they've already climbed the Everest, and it's like that's like looking at the brackets. It makes Florida's path even harder.
Well, my dark horse is I'm going to go for a Western team because I just think Boston's too strong. I have a tough time seeing anyone beating Boston. My dark horse team is going to be Ottinger carrying the Dallas Stars to a Stanley Cup champion. I think, Hellebuck is great goalie. Ottinger, I think, is very close. And with Robertson, I think Dallas, I could see them hoisting the cup in June. So that's my dark horse pick. So we've got.
Well, that's good because they have to go through the Avalanche. So that's a good dark horse pick also because I don't see Seattle beating. I think Seattle, if they win 1 game, they're going to rejoice like the Leafs rejoice when they win 1 game in the playoffs. They'll be at the same level. And they won't have 10 Stanley Cups, but it's going to be an achievement. Like it's an achievement for the Leafs to win a game in the first round. So Seattle, if they just beat the Avs, they have in their second year a playoff win. Wow.
And I see Dallas. I see Dallas can easily beat Winnipeg, Vegas, and LA. Oilers, I think they'd have a much, much, much tougher time against, but I still think it can be done. So I think if they can beat the Avs in round 2, then I think they could go all the way.
The Oilers, the thing that sucks the most for the Oilers is Holland finally did the right thing with Ekholm. But to rely on a rookie goaltender is playing with fire. Instead of signing Campbell, he should have resolved. Like Vanacek was available from New Jersey. Samsonov was available. Toronto got him for $1.8 million. There was other cheaper options that probably would have put them in the forefront, because Skinner, man, it's like, how is he going to rack in the playoffs? Nobody knows until they're in the playoffs. And Patrick Roy, he didn't care it was the playoffs. And you have in history goaltenders that were young that didn't care. We'll find out. But if Skinner plays like the regular season, Avalanche better watch out. They need Georgiev to be at the same level for the Avalanche to repeat. But that's the question mark with the Oilers is goaltending, but it could have been solved easily.
Yeah, he needs to have a Cam Ward playoff run, and he can.
2006, yeah,
absolutely. All right, any kind of final comments here, just to kind of close off the show here, guys? We'll start with you, Ryan. Of course, you're looking forward to the Oilers, and a long run for the Oilers in the playoffs. And what kind of excites you over the next couple months here? What do you? I mean, what are you hoping to see? Hoping to see, some high-scoring games, some McDavid hat tricks, some hard hits.
Well, I want to see what the team can do when they're healthy, when they're completely healthy. They had Draisaitl on one leg for the playoffs last year, and he still paced the scoring in the playoffs. So it would be nice to see a healthy team run to the playoffs and see what they can do.
Yeah, how is Evander Kane? Because since he came back from his sliced,
he's iffy.
He's not doing that great, So I think he's still suffering from his cut wrist, because that's a severe injury. So hopefully he can turn it on.
The spark of the playoffs. Like Draisaitl's built for the playoffs. I've been saying this for years. Is McDavid can win the scoring titles in the regular season all year long, but when it comes to the playoffs, a healthy Draisaitl is better than McDavid.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I've always thought that next year, 2024, was Edmonton's year. I still think they're 1 year off, and if they have any injuries,
situation better next year. They could be a much better team next year.
Yeah. This year, I'm going to give them a little bit of a bye if they don't, go to the Final Four. But it's all in for sure next year. And Nurse again is very unpredictable.
On Monday, because the one thing that's going to make it or break it for Edmonton is going to be the referees. If they go to the typical playoff, not calling anything, that's going to kill the Oilers with their over 30%, because that hasn't been done ever in history to have that power play. So you're taking the best weapon away from the Oilers if you don't call the penalties that are the penalties in the regular season. And we'll find out on Monday what they're going to call. And that's what sucks for teams like Edmonton that is so dominant on the power play. It's like they say they don't want to influence the game, but they are, because they're so dominant that you're taking away their offense. So
we've been getting dominant on the penalty kill. We've been outscoring teams killing penalties the last half of the season.
Yeah, but they won't have that opportunity if they don't call any penalties on any team. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and on Monday, is to see how the referees are going to act, because it will have a huge impact.
And Eric, final closing comments from you?
Just like I said, looking forward to getting it started. I am excited about the Oilers run. I think it looks, the Oilers are a much better team than they were last year going into the playoffs. They're big. There's so much more depth there than there was. My fear is any kind of injuries for any team, that I care about. so that's always a little scary. But yeah, no, final thoughts. Just let's get it started. I truly hope that when we do in the second round, we still have 3 Canadian teams. That would be lovely, actually, to be honest with you. And unfortunately, that would mean Winnipeg and the Oilers would be playing against each other. But, that's all right. That would be okay. I'd like to see that. So to have 3 Canadian teams in the second round would be lovely. That'd be great.
I have one last comment. The one thing I'm looking forward to is to see how better of handicap Sidney Crosby will have in golf, because he hasn't been able to practice in 16 years.
Yeah, it's a whole new world for Sidney this year without having to go through the playoffs. So,
all right. Hang on, just one thought though. You know how teams that didn't make the playoffs, they went on to the World Cup, right, and representing Canada, and so on. Haven't heard too much, but I heard something about Connor Bedard playing for Canada World Cup. Anybody hear anything like that?
No, there's rumors that he might be invited. So they're not sure yet. They're looking at it because he has played a lot of hockey, because he had the World Juniors in August. Then he had the regular season start. Then he had the World Juniors in December. And so he's played a lot of hockey. So they're still in the process of deciding if he's going to represent Canada or not.
Okay.
Somebody else, there's a kid that's not in the league yet, and he's probably going to represent the U.S., I think. So they're all open to inviting the kids. And Canada's great hope is Montembeault has been named as a goalie for Canada. Wow. Yeah, and you might laugh, but he's top 10 in the league for GSAA for the year. So that's goal saves above average, because he's facing 40 shots a night. So he's expected to give up 5-6 goals, and he gives up 3 or 4. So if you look, he's one of the best goalies this year. So
fair enough.
I can't wait to see who else goes. It's Canada's gonna see if he represented Canada twice over the last year, so they might cut him a break and have him ready for summer training in the NHL season.
Okay, and we will just end off with the NHL random picks for the playoffs here. I've got the NHL bracket up here, NHL.com, and they give the option of just hitting random picks. So let's just see who they have randomly winning the Stanley Cup this year. And there you have it. What a storyline that would create. They've got Seattle beating Colorado, Minnesota over Dallas, Winnipeg over Vegas.
Or Toronto. They can't even get out of the first round with a randomizer.
Not only that, they lose in 4 games.
Oh my God. Did they? Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, Tampa Bay in 4. This is ridiculous, man.
Boston in 7, Islanders in 4, Jersey in 6, Tampa Bay in 4, and in the West we have Seattle in 7, Winnipeg in 5, Minnesota in 5, and Edmonton in 5. So
remember
NHL has spoken.
Those plastic things with balls inside that you could have balls come out, and to do the 649, that's basically the same thing here. It's ridiculous.
There you go. So we've got Anaheim winning the draft lottery, and we have Edmonton Oilers winning the Stanley Cup. Well, guys, thank you so much. By the time we meet again for June, and we'll talk about the June draft, and we'll talk about free agency. Well, we will see. We'll see how time. If you guys have time, we definitely can get together. You know, if not after the first round, maybe before the semifinals. But yeah, this has been a blast. Enjoyed going through our picks here. Once again, Frank and I have Boston to win the Stanley Cup. Ryan has gone with the hometown Edmonton Oilers, and Eric with the Toronto Maple Leafs? Will this be the first time in 56 years that Toronto has hoisted the cup? We will find out in a few months. This has been the Average Albertan episode, playoff edition. See you next episode. Thank you, Frank, Ryan, Eric. This is Glenn signing off. Until next time,